sitting so far back in the back of the classroom there. I've heard that students sometimes are better pupils than their teachers, and I wonder if that's true sometimes. I have my essential understanding is number 2, and I'm not going to read every single thing on every slide to you guys. I think that you can probably read for yourselves. I'm hoping anyway. I know you can. I have chosen over the past years to not do this as a standalone lesson, but to incorporate it into my AP curriculum. And right now at AP we're doing English literature, and you're thinking, how do you incorporate Native American culture into Chaucer and King Arthur? Patience, grasshoppers, you'll soon see. So anyway, this is all about the diversity among the different tribes, and there's no generic American Indian. So what I have done with this over the years, and we're looking at right now in my AP class, is we start off by talking about the history and meaning of seals throughout history. And so I've chosen to use the native seals that each tribe has as their official seal and correlate that with seals throughout history. And so we talk about, here's a question for you. What was the original purpose of seals? Why did they originate? What was their original
You're not
function?
talking about the fuzzy animals, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about seals.
Your coat of arms,
Well,
or is it different?
it's different than that. We do coat of arms. That's part of the presentation
Okay,
too.
I think
But
what
the
my
original
trouble
seal.
is, I don't know about what a seal is unless it's a
Okay,
fuzzy
well,
animal.
what is the purpose of a seal?
Is it the envelopes?
Yes,
When
okay.
they load the envelopes and they put
Exactly.
the wax
They were
on and
developed back in the day to authenticate a document. So if I mailed a letter to somebody and I would put the seal on it, I would take the hot wax, drip it on there, and I would take my seal that was my own personal seal and put it into the hot wax. That way the person who got that envelope or package would realize, number 1, who it came from, because it was easily identified. Number 2, if the seal was not broken, the contents were safe and secure. And it began that only the royalty, obviously, people in power had the seal. And eventually every person from in the church, for example, the Pope had his own personal seal, and then bishops would as well. So it kind of tapered on down that way. But that was the purpose, though. So you could tell, first of all, who it came from, and second of all, if it was secure or not, okay? And every civilization has used those, so it's a great thing to talk about, like with your social studies class, for example, about different cultures that have them as well. So it really is cross-curriculum with all those. Ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, Asia to Europe, and again, it spread gradually through all the different sections of society. Okay, and I pull up a couple as I show my classes for examples for Ramses the Great of Egypt. And I know it's kind of light in here. Want the lights off, or are you okay with it? It's okay? Okay. And then the one of King John of England from 1199. So those are some examples of seals. This one he would have used, for example, to seal official documents. That would have been his stamp of approval. So we'll talk about the seals then, about what it means, what it signifies. These are obviously much more ornate than this one's going to be. They weren't huge. They're usually about maybe 3 inches in diameter at the biggest. But again, you can see here, sitting on the throne itself right there, the sword in one hand. Again, what does it mean for him? Then we would go into the U.S. seal. You can leave this out if you want to. I just kind of threw it in there to see how much they remembered of their history, right? So it was approved in 1782. I would use this like on the year when I teach AP American Lit, because that plays right into the concept of Continental Congress and all that. So, e pluribus unum, what does that mean? Out of many, one, exactly, okay. In one plot is olive branch, symbol of peace, other 13 with arrows. And did you know that there is reverse side to it? And the reverse side has a 13-step pyramid with 1776. And again, there are more mottos on there. You can talk about that with them as well. Again, like I said, if I were doing for regular class, I wouldn't go through them quite as quickly, but I don't think we want to sit here and talk about each slide for 15, 20 minutes. So as long as we're okay with that. And this year, for example, with my AP class, I left it out because this year we're talking about English literature, so I didn't do that with it this year. And then pull in Montana seal as well. Pretty ornate right there. There's some history to it as well about who designed it, when it was designed, and so on, about why we have it on. There was talk about, for example, in 1889, adding in more things to it. Indians, for example, settlers And they decided then it was too busy as it was, so let's leave a few things out of it then. I was reading a couple weeks ago that there is talk now of redesigning the Montana State Seal. I haven't heard any more about that yet, though, just maybe a proposal to do something like that. I do this in my Spanish class too, because the oro y plata on there, and the Montana, so it really goes over a lot of different areas. Then we go into the different tribal nations and the seals each one has. When I show it to the students, I would show them the seal alone and ask them, what do you think this signifies on it? What's the purpose of that? I'm not going to do that with you guys today, okay? We're going to go through it a little bit quickly. We talked about the 11 and 12 tribes, and so they get some more reinforcement there about how many tribes there are that are recognized. And there's only one tribe that does not have a reservation, and where it's headquartered as well. So it kind of just reinforces what they've heard before, but they may have forgotten or maybe haven't even heard it before. So then we go into the Blackfeet tribal nation. And I would show them this seal by itself. And then we would talk about, what do you think? Why is the color blue? What is the significance of the feathers around it? And then I would go through this with them later on and talk about, what it does mean. And this is off the OPI website too. It's already done for you. You can go and search more if you want to, but it's pretty concise. Some of the tribes have a lot more information about their seal. Some of them don't have a whole lot, but this one does have quite a bit. The single eagle feathers creates a circle. Inside is the current land base right here of the Blackfeet Nation. And the colors represent the earth, the cosmos, the elements, the plants, animals, as well as the people itself. The circle of life itself as well. The many feathers equate to the bands of the numerous Blackfeet tribe, arranged in a circle like life itself. The sun itself rises in the east, circles to the west. And so you can talk about all those things with them about what this seal actually means to them. And the eagle feathers, majesty and mysticism of the eagle, long life, energy, power, accomplishments, and al-suku as well. They did think about changing it, but the designer passed away before it was finally implemented. So we're going to change it to a Blackfeet style straight arrow war bonnet, because this is not typical Blackfoot war bonnet. But before he could do it, he passed away, so it has not yet been done. So you can talk a lot about that in 15, 20 minutes if you want to go into a lot of detail with them and ask them what they think all the different elements are going to mean. Then the next slide goes to the Crow tribe. And again, there's a lot of information here for this one. And a lot of the kids know a lot about the Crow tribe already, like about, for example, the 3 mountains, and the 3 sacred mountains, for example, Wolf Peak prior to the Bighorn Mountains. So it's a great thing to talk about with like social studies, talk about different cultures of different areas. And the 2 rivers, the Bighorn, the Little Bighorn as well. And the teepee is white, representing purity and goodness. The teepee's 4 base poles show the never-ending cycle of the seasons, which is kind of interesting to bring it out like that. The teepee has 2 ventilated flat poles, and they're the sentries that watch over the home, the coyote by day and the owl at nighttime. The stakes are gifts from the badger. So you can bring in a lot of really fun, cool stories about their origin stories as well. And then the 2 different war bonnets show the Crow clan system. And the Crow belief has 4 large major foundations. Each is shown on the emblem, the clan system, the sweat lodge, and the sacred tobacco bundle, and the pipe. So all those things are present on there. And so they can see that some of the tribes have a lot more detail than others do. Some of them are simpler, some of them are more ornate, and so certainly that is an interesting one to look at when it talks about, for example, the 3 mountains and the 2 rivers as well. And you and I wouldn't know that, right? I mean, we have no idea of knowing which mountains are important to them or which rivers are taking them as well. So it's kind of an interesting way of bringing that in with them. And also you can talk about the 7 secret buffalo bulls and buffalo women. And there are some great stories about buffalo women that are out there available to anybody. All right, so then the next one we talk about is the flathead. And the kids love this one. It's very pretty. It's very simple, very pretty. They like it too because the guy who designed it was still in high school at the time he designed it. And he's now teaching at Salesian College as well. He's still teaching today. And his intention was to show the people connecting to the land and the water. And his picture right there is of Chief Crustata. He was one of the very last of the people themselves. And he revamped it in the 1980s, made his hand more like this pointing rather than just out there. And they added more colors and textures. Like I said, the kids really like that one. I think it really shows a lot, not of what they're used to in Montana, but a different part of them. Okay, the next one is Fort Belknap. And this one again has a lot of information on it, a lot of different elements to it, created by the Sunny Shields. And it's a traditional shield symbolizing the shield's protection of the two tribes, the Grolan and Assiniboine. And it shows the protection of the two tribes in the past, present, and future. We talk about, how these two different people came together and have united into this. Also, the circular shape of the shield shows life itself, which is a common theme throughout history and cultures. And the cycle of life, each living thing depends on one another. The four directions and the four seasons are symbolized by these four colors. And I do have my kids, which I'll show you in a bit, do their own shield or emblem, and they have to choose a color. And why did they choose that color? Now, for this one, red represents the summer, yellow for fall, white for winter, and green for spring. There are a lot of other symbolizations of colors as well. The buffalo skull is important right there because it shows the distance of the two tribes on the reservation, and they still function as a whole. The colors divide it, but yet they still keep it as a whole. The skull, interesting, has a jagged line from the horn representing the Milk River. And we talk about where's the Milk River at? What do you know about the Milk River on the Missouri? And Snake Butte is also illustrated right there. The two arrowheads face each other, emphasize the strong traditional ties with the past. And they're facing together, not apart from one another. The 7 feathers, each feather is for every 2 of the 12 council members that represents the reservation's 3 districts. And the center feather shows the tribal chairman herself. So again, there's a lot we could talk about with this one. And again, there's a lot more detail on this one. And the kids are interested to talk about, well, they see the buffalo. Well, what's the jagged thing? What does that mean? Why do they have the 2 arrowheads pointing together? The next one is the Fort Peck one. And this is an interesting backstory to it. Because before the oil companies wanted to drill, before they did this, the tribe did not have a seal. This was created when the Tribal Employment Rights Office got a request from oil companies to begin purchase water from the tribe. And so they asked them for this, and so this was drawn up for them. The seal itself, interesting, the kids always notice that there's not a solid circle. Instead, the words make up the circle itself. And then the buffalo right from the reservation boundaries and the Fort Peck were added in later on. But they always get interested to realize that that's how this seal came about, was because of the oil companies. The next one, Northern Cheyenne. And again, they know a lot about Northern Cheyenne. And they know the stories, for example, about the Morning Star. They know about Chief Dull Knife and the Morning Star people. It's a very simple one. Message is past and present survive of the people itself. The Morning Star rises each day and brings light to the Cheyenne people now and those yet to be born. And they identify themselves as people of Chief Morning Star and Little Wolf. And it's a great way to talk about how these chiefs led the people up from Oklahoma to the Trail of Tears. And you can really get into some good sessions with that as well. So lots of ways to tie this into history, more than just, AP literature. How does this do with Chaucer? Okay, the next one I have is Rocky Boys. And they like this one too because it's bright and colorful. It's very different than the Crows, for example. The Chippewa Cree. And again, I'm not going to read every single line to you guys. Hope you're okay with that. Please say yes, you're okay with that. Thank you, thank you. They like to pick out the busy stuff in this one because there's so much. In this one, they talk about how the eagle represents strength, wisdom, and bravery, and honor, and all elements conceived from the bird that represents the thunder and lightning of the sacred sky itself. So the eagle's there, but means a little bit different this time. Buffalo, again, is a source of food right there and shelter. Also, it's an animal that shows the source of life and the Sundance element. We can talk about the Sundance. What was the Sundance? What's the purpose of it? The tepee is also there. Again, the values and traditions are derived from as well as the life and traditions of the Chippewa themselves. So again, a great source of talking about what's important in their lives, what they thought of was important to them. And the 9 feathers, represent the 9 elected chiefs of the Chippewa Cree Business Committee. So they're recognized there as well. Little shell, again, the buffalo right there, it was central to their survival, coming into people themselves. This is the one we talk a lot about the mixing of the cultures, because this is also with the Métis people. And so on their seal, the red and white background are used by the Métis people to show the mixed blood heritage of the tribe. The yellow represents the French heritage, and also the yellow shows, the green channel shows the Scots-Irish heritage. So it's interesting to talk about how, yes, this is an example of two different cultures coming together. And this is a good one to talk to about the idea about blood quantum. We had presented that in last fall, about how much blood you have to be recognized by each tribe, which varies a great deal. And so, yeah, you can use that to talk about how they recognize the French background and the Scottish-Irish background as well. All right, and then from there, we go back into Chaucer. We go back into King Arthur. We talk about the coat of arms. We talk about, what was the coat of arms for? And it was designed originally because that way, if you were killed in the battlefield, you could be identified by the coat of arms you wore. Also, if you were in a jousting tournament, you have 5 knights out there, which one are you? The coat of arms helped identify that as well. So, again, it's a hereditary device, and there's a long, complicated story about that, but if you have a coat of arms, it is supposed to pass down to the firstborn son, and only the firstborn son gets that. So, interesting to know that if you are interested in doing that. Anybody have one? Mm-hmm. Do you? Okay.
Yes, it's really fun. It's prepaid.
Yeah, it's amazing. They developed in Northern Europe in the mid-12th century, again, identified the bodies on the battlefield, and then also identified them in battle themselves. So then we talk about, so if you're going to do a coat of arms for yourself, what would that coat of arms be? For example, what is sacred to you? The buffalo? Probably not the buffalo, unless you are in a farming and agriculture background. But what different colors would you have as well? So then we go into and look at some of these examples again from medieval England, talking about what they have on theirs. They're not the same with Native Americans, but there are some elements that are certainly crucial, like the colors, for example. The lion, what's the lion represent? There's no buffalo because there were no buffalo at that time, okay, in England. The fish, what's the fish represent? Not what you think. Someone who is honest, who is hardworking, and it's just like, so that's what that represents. We all know what the buffalo represents, right? The people. Again, the cross right there. So all those things can come out and talking about what these mean. The line over here, the colors as well. And then, what I have them do is I have them create their own shield, which you're going to do. So you can take one and pass it around. I'll show some examples of what they have done. They aren't all done yet. They have a choice. They can do it by hand. Some of them like to draw by hand. Some of them like to use computers, some a variety of things. They had elements they had to have on there just to make it more intense and to make it more, why did you put this down? Why did you choose this color? Don't just choose blue. What's the purpose of the blue itself? Blue represents morning star. What does it represent for you? So this is one of Hannah. She has a wolf. She likes to howl at the moon. Do you know Hannah Dorn very well? I don't think you think of her as howling at the moon, but she explained it really well why she chose that. Grecian drama masks, obviously for that. Her motto is a German motto, so we'll have to have the German expert translate that for us. And again, she's got the explanation right there for it. Another one is Alyssa Shell, and her motto was not in Italian or anything else. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. So they had to put some thought into that. What is going to be the motto you're going to live by? And then she chose some different elements that are important to her in her life. The music, and music. Okay, so this is O'Connell. And he chose to use the reddish orange because it's a symbol of bravery for him. And they didn't have to do a circle. Most of them did do a circle like that. They didn't have to. The elephant, come on, Eastern Montana. Why would a boy choose an elephant? Big and strong. Big and strong. And then he wants to go into medicine, so he's got that there. Hardworking, lots of different things for working right there. And the wolf, again, he's got the wolf. He likes that thing too, of howling at the moon, I guess. And the blue background for Montana, because Montana has blue skies, right? Surrounded by the orange, reddish orange for the power and strength. And Caleb Kluger chose to do a traditional one. And basketball, you know, Caleb has had the basketball on there. The wrench, and I love the wheat he has there as well. The wrench is for his grandfather, who taught him a lot of mechanicking. The wheat, obviously, because they're farmers. And the barn owl, not an eagle, but an owl. He chose the barn owl because, why? Wisdom, yeah, wisdom. Goddess Athena and all that, so yeah, he really put some work into that. And he chose purple. Why purple? Royalty. Yeah, royalty. And one more, Zach Craig. I had to really puzzle over and figure a few things out. Didn't turn out the exact color he wanted. This was supposed to be Scorio. Now, I said, why do you have Scorio on there? I mean, well, yeah, there's a lot of Scorio around Baker, but why did you choose Scorio? He's like, well, because when you go to my house, you're on Scorio all the time. It's all you see around there. So it's a central part of who he is. And I said, yeah, I do get that. The salamander. They're hard to catch. That goes in with his debating. He likes to argue and talk. It's hard to pin him down on anything. So the salamander pin represents that as well. Pen and paper, pencil, yeah, he likes to do, work really hard. And Zach means, I think he said, is one chosen by God, so he has a cross on there as well for his faith. And the black background because he likes the black, he likes the night. Not that it's bad or anything, just because he likes the night itself. So, looking at the tribal seals, you can see what's important in each tribe's culture, what they value. Maybe they value, for example, the buffalo. They value perhaps the idea of the teepee because that is the home for them. And it's a white teepee, the purity and goodness. So you can make that connection. So what's important to you in your life? What is going to shape you? If you are going to do your own seal or your own family crest, what's it going to be like? What is your motto going to be to live by? And from there, you can have them create their own. So, well, I walked through that really fast. I went through like about 4 days and 25 minutes. All right, probably went too quickly. Before I keep on going, do you have any questions? Any questions you can think of?
Does every tribe have a seal? Because we didn't go through 11 of them.
There, the ones, the reservations, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do. Of this separate, the reservations all have, yes, they do. And that's what from the OPI site too. And some of them, like a couple of them are combined. A couple of the tribes are combined.
Right.
So yeah, that's where they'll come in the 11. And again, the kids are like, well, why don't some of the tribes have more detail about that? It's like, well, maybe they're still working on it, maybe still working in progress, and they're constantly evolving and changing. And some of them ask, well, who decides what the seal is going to be like? And some of the tribes had like a competition, send in your drawings, for example, and see what we're going to do. Some of them were just designed over time. Some of them have gone through a lot of process of changing, updating.
Do they all vary in how old their seals are?
They are, yeah. Like the one I showed you is pretty recent, like the 1980s. And to be honest, that most of the tribes didn't have seals until the 20th century. They wouldn't have had that. So, and it's their way of expressing their independence and expressing their pride of who they are and what's important in their lives. And some of them, again, are simpler in design, and some of them are much more ornate. And the kids are always wondering, why did they do what? I don't know. Who knows why they didn't put more in there, and why would you put more into yours as well?
It's kind of like when you look at the 50 state flags for the
Oh,
states.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
some of them are really ornate, and some of them are very, very simple. And
Yeah. So, I mean, this took 25 minutes. Now, obviously, there's a lot more you can do with that. If you have more time, and you don't have to link it into literature like I've done. It just works out really well to bring it in, to make it more inclusive as well. Especially the little show, they talk about how it's a mixture of the Scotch and Irish and French. The kids are like, well, that's pretty cool that they recognize that. It's like, yeah, that is kind of an interesting concept, that you can have all these different people coming together. We talk a lot about how we're more alike than we are unalike. And you can look at those seals as an example of that. You know, for the past 1,000 years, we've been making seals of who we are. And we're still doing that today, identify who we are. Anyway, the kids usually have a good time doing the seals. Sometimes it's hard to think about, you know, what color am I? What is important to me in my life? What's my motto going to be? But it actually makes them think about, you have this little space to put down what you want. And some of them have a hard time coming up with 4 things. Some of them have a hard time coming up with more than one idea. You know, music, 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 music. What else is there in your life than just music? Hopefully there's something more to that. But that's, right now, what her life is like. And some of them, like Zach's, I'm like, salamander, how does that work? But it does make sense once you explain it. So, any questions for me? So now you guys can come up with your own personal seal. I'm not going to grade you on your artistic ability because I have none, but just do a real fast one on the back of your paper, or if you need paper, I'll get some for you. What's your motto going to be? What color are you going to have? You know, what designs you're going to have. I do have them on their assignment. They do it, it's broken down into 5 different parts they have to have. Because I want them to put some time and effort into thinking about what they're like. Otherwise, I'd get, you know, a big circle and a basketball in the middle, and that's it. Like, no, I want more than just that. Never have I seen a room full of teachers so quiet. I really like this lesson because, like I said, it really works well into a lot of different areas. You can do it English literature, you can do it American literature, you can do history, you can do it social studies. There are so many different things. Art, would be great to do with art as well. I can't wait to see what in 6th grade. This is your test, by the way. Your drawing of your own personal seal.
We could have to research.
I know.
The meeting.
Right.
I don't know if you can do it.
Who else did they had a family crest? I know Diane did. Who else? You guys did too? Did you? What is your motto, your family motto? Do you know?
I don't remember what it is.
They're Irish.
The O'Donnells?
Yeah.
I have an O'Donnell one, yeah. I know, yeah. How about you, Joey? Oh, you looked it up, okay.
What is ours?
Drink. Our motto is, whenever there's 4 Irishmen, there's always a 5th.
Really?
It's on our t-shirts.
That's
I vouch for it.
Every 5 years, we get t-shirts made up. Every family gets a different color. And then you walk around on Saturday in your colored t-shirt, and they all have our crest on the front. And on the back it says, for every 4 Irishmen, or whenever there's 4 Irishmen, there's always a 5th. So,
very clever.
I don't know if that would be our motto, but that's what it says.
Can be now, right? I love this blank looks like I drew a circle, now what am I going to put in this circle?
Well, I'm cheating, getting ideas.
You're cheating.
Oh, that's a neat shape.
Oh, I'm trying to do something different, but
Yeah.
I have to scribble out what isn't.
That's neat.
Oh,
What is it?
At Marte de Art. It's the McBean clan family crest, and it means strength and art.
oh, okay.
That's all perfect. That's awesome.
Really? Interesting.
It's from Bowen, and it doesn't have any of the ones that I've seen. It has a
Yeah.
motto or anything
Oh,
on
okay.
it. But then Gordon knows that I'm from the something or other region in Bowen.
Oh, sure.
I'm our own castle. So that's really, that brings it behind that word. The name on the middle of the front.
Was there an extra book out there? Did you
I grabbed
Okay,
one.
good. Okay. I put 3 so I didn't know.
I grabbed it.
Okay, perfect.
I'll just put it in the room.
Okay.
I just put a house in the van.
Don't know. I know, that's a, do you draw silhouettes?
Well, I was gonna say, do I draw all the little people?
What do we have to put in?
You wouldn't think about having boar like on the crest, right? A lion or a dragon maybe, you know?
Yeah.
But a salamander or a boar, I guess, yeah.
That's yours?
Whoops.
And the one thing that we all talk about.
Oh, I wasn't picturing the pigs like that at all. I was picturing like 3 in a triangle or something.
You see basic things, you see.
Yeah, but
That's
it
much
doesn't,
better than I was
it
picturing.
doesn't have a,
Anything that even depicts wealth. No.
it's not nobility, so it doesn't have any
You
sort
see
of
the
a,
teepees, the
Oh.
the
motto
arrows,
or
the feathers,
anything on it.
Mountains, rivers, and that's all you
but
see.
my dad
Holland
has,
is
I think
cool,
my
though.
brother has a plaque
Wealth.
that has this on it that's really big.
Oh.
Yeah, so anyway, that's exciting, huh?
Well, and like, there's no cooking allowed there.
What do they mean?
But there's a teepee.
Huh?
What do the pigs mean?
I don't know that they have anything, yeah, and,
Oh, my goodness.
but anyway, and then when you do go to Ancestry.com, it tells you that this means that this family came from a certain area in Holland.
Oh, van
But-
means from or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I go to Ancestry.com, if I do anything with it, it says that it indicates that you came from a certain region, so it's from the Garden region in something or other. But as I was telling Carol, in my dad's family that has done this, they can find the Van Gordon relatives that we can go on in New Amsterdam. So it goes way back before, I mean, too early. But they can never find that person getting on the boat. So it was the change your name on the boat, but that's a lot of things that happened with second and third sons changed their names, or criminals would change their names as they came over. So they've never definitively figured out that this guy was that guy when he got on the boat. So
Wow.
that part, there's a thing.
I've heard of like slight spelling changes too. Like I think we were Mackay and they
But
changed.
see, a lot of those happened too when they came through Ellis Island, because
Right.
the people that
Were
were
writing.
recording
Didn't know how to spell
didn't know
it.
how to spell Polish or whatever
Right.
else, and sometimes they totally changed names, and sometimes you could get brothers that if you went through, and sometimes it was even with the same scribe or whoever was registering you.
They all have different names.
They would be brothers, and they'd all have different last names, and they'd say, well, your last name is now Smith, and your last name is now Jones, and your name is Anderson. Yeah, probably not that weird, but I mean,
Schmidt or Smith.
yeah, that they would do, or one of them would keep Schmidt, and the next one became Smith, and yeah, so it's real interesting.
Which is cool.
And, you know, and yeah, my mom's family ended up with a name that wasn't in the other ones.
Oh, weird.
Racking my
It was in the
brain.
German name.
I think we just keep it.
I was gonna say, does she wanna see it?
She might.
Green, orange, orange and green. Oh my gosh. I wrote it, gave it a hard time.
I did the same thing.
Hello. And making sure our viewers get a good picture of what we're doing.
Good.
There were 9 views on the last video.
Oh, really? 9?
It was like 45-minute viewing, so.
It's harder than you think, isn't it? To pull out 4 or 5 elements that are you are. Yeah. Imagine doing it for an entire tribe.
Yeah.
That would be very difficult because, you know, if you don't know, what does that mean? What's important in your life? So some of them obviously put a lot more ideas too onto their skin.
Brittany, do you want to take a minute and talk about
There
the
you go.
project? I don't know who all's here.
Like,
Yeah.
it's always interesting to talk about how
I also
there are
probably
no
want to bring up
symbols on
Mr.
there.
Shoemaker's project.
Okay,
But
yeah,
you're
we can
welcome.
take some time.
Just
Okay.
what they needed to survive.
Would today be a good time to mention that Foot Locker too, since I've got coming?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go first?
Okay. I'll make a little transition.
Pardon?
Some of these seals are really different from what their tribal flags are.
Oh, they are, yeah.
And then some of the flags are very similar.
Very similar.
We have a couple little announcements and housekeeping things that I think we'll do while you guys are working. One is that we are working on having a spring event to kind of cap this off. And so we're working on bringing Superman here or somebody like that. And then we'll have the unreserved program that we've been discussing, which would be with one grade level at the high school level. So we're working on some of those things, just FYI. We'll let you know how that develops. And then Melissa has something to talk about.
I have a Foot Locker coming from the Montana Historical Society Education Office. It's Lifeways of Montana's First People. And I'll send out an email with a link to that so you can look at what's in it and what kind of things it covers. And it'll be at the museum. Let me grab my calendar. It comes in the 21st, and I think we have it till the 1st, so those last 2 weeks of October. I thought that might be a nice counterpart to, say, Columbus Day. So, anyway, that's there, and I'd be happy to have groups come in and I can put together lessons, or you can design what you want by looking at the OPI, or not the OPI, the Historical Society materials.
So it's kind of like a trunk
Yeah.
kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
And it has stuff in it?
Yeah, yeah. So there's educational materials, and I think they're all reproduction artifacts, but
Very cool. So October 21st to November 1st? All right.
Anyone else have a crest or a seal they want to share? Or that they would share?
I'll share mine.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so for my motto, I picked we might not have it all together, but together we have it all.
Ah.
And of course, I have music, and I have nature, and I have tools. Our tool in our family that we like to do a lot is hands, because we like to be helping people. And then I have travel, because that's how we all are together as a family, is through travel. So that's
What
what I
would
have.
you use for background?
What colors would I choose for background? I would do lots of blue because of big sky. And green maybe because of nature.
Thank you. Anybody else? Miss Colbrose is having a hard time drawing a bobcat and a grizzly getting together.
My motto is blood is thicker than water, but love is thicker than blood. And so I have a heart is greater than blood because I'm adopted. And on one side I have my adopted family with the farm, and I have our brand. And on the other side I have familia, because I'm a quarter Mexican and I didn't learn that until a year ago. And the rest of my family comes from the mountains, and the cross at the top for Christianity. So.
No bobcat.
No grizz even. What? It's tattooed on my body. You'll identify me, trust me.
I'm sure Shauna drew a grizz.
I wrote the word.
Bobcat.
Oh.
See, there's more to me than that.
I'll share mine.
Great.
So I did 6 sides, because I have 6 kids.
Cool.
And a wheel that goes around and around, because that's my life, it goes around and around.
Is
And
there a
I
hamster
put,
on there too?
yeah, I put bobcat in the middle, and then sports in one section, the weather, because my life revolves around the farmer that is either hailed out or droughted out or whatever. And then crops up here, and then a teacher bottle book for teaching. And then these are all rows for planting crops. And my motto was, keep trying, be believing, be happy. Things will work out.
Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, you're artistic too.
No,
Yeah, you do artistic stuff.
Oh, here you go. So I did your typical, mine is 4 groups. One is blue, and I put a ship in there because both of our families came from Europe. Then one has a cross, and it would be red on white for Christianity. Then I have green for living on a ranch, working on a ranch. And then I have bobcats in the other corner because that's where we met and fell in love and made our life. Start there. So, And my motto is let your faith be bigger than your fear.
Ooh, good.
And it's interesting that none of the tribal seals have a model on them. You know, the ones in Europe do, the family crest have a model, but again, the difference. I was gonna say, they didn't have a written language, so how do you express that? Yeah. Anybody else? I think this is good for making us all think about what's important in our lives. What do we stand for? What is important, what is central to who we are, and how do you make that connection with the tribal seals? What's important in their life and why it's so important? So when you talk about, for example, preserving the land, well, that's because they lived on the land. They were right there with it. So some of us are removed from that. In eastern Montana, probably not. But certainly if you live in a city, it's like, who cares about a buffalo? Who cares about the mountain? Well, we do, actually. And you can talk about those important parts of their life. And again, the teepee. A lot of you do things about the home, right? Well, teepee is your home. What color is it going to be? What does it symbolize to you? Well,
Brittany, do you want to talk about the medicine?
Okay, I have two things to talk about. One is Mr. Shoemaker. I don't know how many of you got that email, if that was just a few of us that got the email, but Mr. Shoemaker went to, if you guys remember last year when Mr. Guillon's friend, the coach Lame Deer Fisher, passed away, and Al passed away. So Mr. Shoemaker and TC went to the funeral. And they just kept these people just kept coming up to him and saying, thank you for coming, we really appreciate it. Because nobody else from the district came to the funeral. From other districts, And so he was just really kind of moved by that. And then even during the basketball season last year, they kept coming up to him and saying that, again, that they were just appreciative. So that kind of led him to think that maybe just because they've had, after Alan, they had that girl that was killed on their, they have several tragic things that happen. And so Shoemaker wants to do, we're not really sure the title of the project, maybe something like United in Honor. He's trying to do it cheesy, but the idea is we'll design a t-shirt that'll have like Lame Deer and Spartans United, Morning Stars and Spartans United or something. And anybody who wants to, doesn't have to be from Baker High School or from Lame Deer High School, you pay like $25 and you can get a name of a loved one put on the back. So like I would pay $25 and I could put my dad's name on it, and anybody from Lame Deer could do the same thing, and it would be a fundraiser. And then we've identified the after school program here as that would receive half the funds, and then Tiger, who is the administrator in Lame Deer, and then Mr. Guillon's mom is the counselor. They're looking for something similar, like their after school program or their Boys and Girls Club that would receive the other half of the funds. And that we would wear all those shirts then. January 4th is when Lame Deer's home, and so we'd have a whiteout. So even if you didn't want to purchase a shirt or sponsor a loved one's name on the back, you could just wear white that day and the whole gym would be in white. And the boys' and girls' warm-ups would be those shirts. So
So you're making a seal, basically, of the two
Basically.
people coming
Oh,
together.
that would be neat
Yeah.
to do
Run
that.
the shirt.
yes, yeah. So, and that's all I'm just telling you because he came and talked to
Now,
me
is
about it.
that, Jennifer, is that here or there?
It's here.
Here.
Yep, it's here. And then Medicine Rocks project-wise, I contacted a couple people about what we had talked about and trying to get an article. They said that Ekalaka did a new sign for Medicine Rocks or something, that Sabre got something together, so we probably should take a look at that.
I think I have that file.
You do? Okay.
But
you
it didn't
the
have a
PDF.
lot of content on.
It didn't? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but
I'll send that to you.
okay, and we can talk about that, the group that's in that project later, but I just wanted to let you know about Shoemaker's project and be thinking about that, and
Could you send that to us all? Because I know
yeah, no, I think he was leery to send it out. He doesn't want to sound cheesy, like when we're trying to think of the title, like is it United in Bravery, is it United in Honor, is it United in even cheesy in itself? And then t-shirt design, we talked about having a student maybe design it, or the go-to, Mr. Hover's like coming up with something. But
a seal idea would be cool.
But we
kind
need
of
to
tie
get
that
going
in.
on, like, we kind of want to get going on it so that we get it out there. I mean, because you can make the font as tiny as you want for a screen print in the back. We could have 100 names on the back, maybe, so, yes, I will forward that to you, and we'll just have to get solid on the name that doesn't sound cheesy.
Could the shirts be sold for a little bit of a profit too, and that could go towards, like if they were $10, sell them for 15 or something?
Sure, yeah, I'm not I guess I didn't know
Add a little bit to.
what that would cost and,
How much lead, I mean, I assume we're getting them done here.
yeah.
How much lead time do we need?
They can do t-shirts pretty quickly, I mean,
Okay.
you give them a couple weeks.
It's just a matter of having them on hand in the sizes that we need and having the.
Yeah.
Like
having
pre-orders
the-
or
the
not?
orders in
I
for
don't think
the-
we've really ran it by Barry or Riss yet either, so, but I know that part won't be difficult, it's just,
Would we like send them to Lame Deer ahead of time or just have them here?
I think ideally we want them there ahead of time, like when Jake goes down, that he would take them, like at Christmas. So, so everybody could, yep. So,
Has he talked with, obviously he's talked.
he's talked with Tiger and, and Jake and Jake's mom, and so they're all, the biggest thing is finding what institution there that they would be able, that they could donate to, and that's on Tiger and Jake's mom's end, but, and hopefully, he's just worried, he just hopes that there's buy-in. He just wants them to be, as moved as he is about the whole deal, that he wants everybody else to feel that too. I think it's a common emotion, like we're more alike than we're actually different, and then,
Right.
That's a good
We
motto.
would have our names in there, I mean, we're taking it from both.
Yeah.
The whole back would be full of names.
the whole back would be
Mixed.
full of names.
Yeah.
Communities and-
That we're all remembering
Okay.
those we've lost.
Cool.
Yep. So. That's all I have.
That works well. But they have a contest to design a shirt.
Yeah.
Or have different people give ideas and then kind of incorporate ideas.
That would be
into,
cool.
That way it's not all from Baker either.
Right. Yeah. So. Hopefully it's not mad that I advertised this.
Is Wednesday a good day to do these? Or, like, I know that works well for sports stuff, but then some people couldn't come today, so.
I don't think it's a perfect day.
Yeah, and Josie can't do it on Wednesdays, so when it's her turn, we'll have to do it on another day, but. So we might alternate, maybe? So,
Do we have a date set for the next one?
not yet.
Who is the next one?
I think it's Austin.
No,
Oh, you are, and then it's Austin's 4th, okay. So is Wednesday okay for you two, or should we do a different day?
Doesn't matter, I can change my,
Okay.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found some things you can use in your class, whether you teach high school or grade school, math or science or English, whatever it might be, because it really is pretty adaptable to a lot of different areas. And you don't have to do every single seal. You can focus maybe on one of them if you want to. I just chose to do them all. And you can leave off Montana, you can leave off the U.S. It just kind of works well to bring it all in. You can see for yourself how you can really make it into a cross-curriculum exercise. And I think kids are better at drawing, expressing themselves than we are. And adults sometimes, because they have definite ideas. Okay.
All right. Okay. We have